What's up, guys? New episode of the Always Race Day podcast here. I'm Connor Ferguson, joined by Damon Helgevald. And real quick, you might hear someone counting in the background from the numbers 1 to 6. That's the IUPUI men's basketball team practicing here at Hilton Coliseum. Yeah, a lot of counting going on, Damon. This game is going to be something.
They'll be counting something anyway.
Predicted to be the worst college basketball men's team in the country this season is IUPUI, who Iowa State plays tonight. There's also rebranding.
Good start.
Rebranding their school name next year. But they've already announced. IU Indiana, I think, or IU Indy.
Interesting. I like IUPUI better.
No one hates Ooey Pooey.
I'd rather be IUPUI. It makes more sense.
Real quick, I do want to give a shout out and a thank you to the Carl Auto Group for sponsoring this podcast. Bear with us. I did think the court would be vacant right now. I did not know they had shoot around at 2 o'clock, but here at Hilton covering men's and women's basketball, first doubleheader of the year, and I figured I'd just post up here and work here all day. Maybe next time we'll find a quieter place, but they're getting what we got, Damon.
You got to take what you got. Take what you're given.
All right, so what do we want to talk about first? Because my favorite bowling team sure did better than my favorite race team yesterday.
Yeah, we had a pretty good weekend. I can't be too upset with a second place finish, another individual championship, and it's been surprisingly a good start to the season.
Yeah, and what's the girl's name that won again?
Jordan Cherf is her name, and so she's a girl from New York for us, and she's just done a fantastic job.
You let her know her new nickname is KB. So she's your Chris Bryant. I'll have it to her as soon as possible. She's my favorite now, by far.
Sounds good.
You seen the way she throws bowling balls?
Yeah, I see them every day, actually.
Impeccable.
I agree, and pays off because it definitely helps us out. That's for damn sure.
So, guys, if you don't know, Damon is the head coach at Columbia. It's in Missouri, women's bowling program on the rise. Because you got second place this time?
Yeah, we got second this week out of 11 schools. We were third out of 9 2 weeks ago, and second out of 11 this week. And
sounds like you're on pace for a win.
Well, that's the hope. That's the hope. We got it in line with a couple of tournaments coming up. We feel we could win one of the next couple we got coming up. So,
will you do a burnout with the van that you drive down there? Will you do a burnout with it if you win a tournament?
It might be in the cards. I haven't decided. It might be in the cards.
All right. Oh man,
got to figure out that victory celebration.
We'll have to do a big video for it. That'd be awesome. So Joey Logano, two-time NASCAR Cup Series champion now. He's one of 10 drivers to ever win multiple titles in the Cup Series. How big is that for him? What do you think of the race and anything else you saw?
So I listened to most of it because we were on the bus on the way home, so I was listening to it. And, again, radio makes it sound a lot better than it actually was. I think the beginning part of that race was kind of, I don't want to say bad. It was more boring than anything. I think the beginning part of the race, it was all about track position early. You didn't really see too many people make big moves, make those kind of moves that, question you throughout the day. I think you had Ross Chastain start the day at the back and work his way to the front. You had, things like that throughout the day. Bell was similar since he was towards the middle to back of the pack and worked his way forward. So as far as the beginning part of the race, it kind of sucked, I think, for the most part. And then, they had that restart where old number one decided he wanted to go back to his old ways and send Chase for a little bit of a spin in the middle portion of that. But good for Logano. If it wasn't Chase that was going to win the title, I'd rather have seen Logano win it anyway. It wouldn't have been as fluky of a win. I think he had two people in the championship that were, I wouldn't say a fluke per se, but more along those lines because you had Bell win a couple of cutoff races to even have a chance, and then
I think Bell proved
Chas.
his worth.
I think he did too, but I think at the same token, he also was at the bottom of the standings twice to get in, and so um, I think I think he was consistent throughout the year, but then you had Chastain kind of get in because of the Hail Mary he threw, and so if it wasn't going to be Chase, it was nice to see Logano because it wasn't near as much of a fluke. He was always up front all year and really ran consistently throughout the season, I think.
Yeah, so a couple of things, especially if you're watching on the YouTube, and I don't even know who drives the number one car, but I just want to explain my situation as I'm sitting here now. I opened this pop that Iowa State gives us free drinks, and it's caffeine free.
Well, yeah, that's what Sierra Mist
By far
is.
the most worthless decision I could have made by missing the small font that says caffeine free.
You didn't know that Sierra Mist and Sprite are both caffeine free?
Oh, are they?
Yeah, they have been forever.
I had no idea.
Boy, you are.
I've drank a lot of pop that was not worth what I needed it for a buzz of caffeine.
Apparently.
Well, that sucks.
Apparently.
I figured out that I can mute my microphone. I forgot that. Just out of thin air. We're having a real good Monday afternoon. Yeah, watching the race, you had three guys in that race that certainly deserved to win a championship. And, anytime you're watching a race between three guys and the guy who crosses the line first wins, like the anticipation is there. Phoenix, yeah, usually the first 150 laps, you're kind of just looking at who has the speed, where's everyone going, what are the strategy moves. I thought Alan Gustafson had probably one of the calls of the year, sending Chase to the pits with 30 laps to go in stage 2, and even with no one else pitting, Chase still got back up to 12th. Imagine if he comes for 10 laps earlier.
Right.
And yeah, so that was super cool to see. I wasn't shocked. No one tried it in the third stage because, you got lucky that it worked anyways without having a caution, and things kind of ramp up. But I like how things play out in the championship format, and I know it makes for a boring first half at Phoenix, but I picked up on some strategy in the first half of the race. I didn't hate it, but I see what you're saying for sure.
I just think if you're going to have a championship race, have it at a place that passing is a little bit more prevalent. Homestead.
Well, it's all supposed to play to like a fan's dream weekend, and they have the facilities that were purpose built to host the championship race down there. That was the whole like thing with their upgrades and all of that, and getting the championship race in the first place. Like, I guess Homestead's not very nice. And that's a reason that they don't have it there anymore. But NASCAR wants their championship to be a big event. There wasn't even a sponsor on this race. Did you know that? It's just called
they haven't had one for a while.
Yeah, I didn't notice that in past years. They just called it the championship race. So,
yeah.
And I like that aspect of it. I think that's how you should market it. And I think, the big media outlets should see NASCAR championship and be like, all right, today's that day. Especially after what we saw last week from that guy. I can't even remember who it is, what his name was thing last week.
Yeah. I guess for my say in this is, Phoenix, it might be the event style for it, but it certainly didn't feel like a championship event. Like, even watching the little bits that I did get to watch on the way home, it just didn't have that championship feel to it, like that finale kind of feel to it. And I don't know why it didn't necessarily, but it just didn't have that championship final, hey, this is it kind of sense of urgency that we've had in previous years, at like a Homestead, where it truly felt like it was a finale type event.
Yeah, I get it, but I think it gets bigger every year. And I think some of that's natural promotion, some of that's kind of inside internally in your brain, and marketing to people that, hey, it's always at Phoenix, this is what happened, and here's naturally occurring. We're going to have some big moments there. I think Phoenix hasn't had many in the past 5 years, and that hasn't helped either. But eventually, like if it stays at Phoenix, it's going to be a big event every year, and it's hard to make it not since it's the title race. But like you said, and I think what
Would you like to see though? But would you like to see more passing for the lead though? I mean, we didn't really have that a whole lot.
yeah, no, I think if I say no, I'm not really a racing fan, right? You know what I
I
mean?
mean, yeah, yeah.
You can almost always ask, but you're not asking an unfair question. You're obviously right. Um, but I think from a fan standpoint, and from hey, if we had all the money in the world and nothing mattered, yeah, I want it rotated, different track every season. Make sure it's not a road course. Make sure it's either a short course or a mile and a half. Tracks that you're racing more often than not. And short tracks are kind of going away from that. I'd put it on dirt. I would put it at Bristol dirt. That's just me.
Oh my
At least
god.
one season. But yeah, like I think I think you should rotate it. But I also think that NASCAR is building something with sponsors and stuff in a big event in Phoenix, and it's a big enough market to do it. And it was sold out again this year. They anticipate 10 plus sellouts next season. Um, Especially with Chicago and North Wilkesboro. Those should. Can you sell out a street race?
No, because you can't see it.
That's your time to stop talking, Damon.
All right.
No, but it sounds like from their state of the sport press conference that things are going in a pretty good direction right now. The numbers, especially, and I think part of that is just it stinks that it has to be Phoenix every year, but at some point we're going to see a killer race at that track. And I didn't think the race was that bad.
I like I said, you can only get so much just listening on it, but just watching some of the replays and some of the things on Twitter and what I did get to watch, it just didn't. I it just didn't have that sense of urgency type feel to the event to the race, kind of like what we've seen in the past. Even last year, it came down to that last pit stop. There was that sense of urgency throughout the entire race because it was the two Joe Gibbs guys who had long run cars, and it was the two Hendrick guys who had short run cars, and the sense of urgency for the cautions to fall and for the stops to happen. Those that kind of played out in last year's race, and even in 2020 when Elliott won his, it had that same sense of urgency type feel to it, where I just didn't have, even listening to the broadcast, it didn't have that sense of urgency type feel. And I think part of that was because, we didn't have the top four cars running in the top five all day long. And I think that had a little bit to do with it.
The conspiracy theorists were quiet.
Well, of course they were. It should have been.
Now, here's the thing that I kind of wanted to go on a little mini rant about, because I thought I had a pretty good eye on the fan base and NASCAR fans in general, especially ones that are on social media and stuff like that, and reading people's reactions. I usually can kind of formulate what the takes are going to look like. We spent the entire last month talking about Bubba Wallace wrecking Kyle Larson and Ty Gibbs taking out his teammate on purpose. Entire last 3.5 weeks has dominated the NASCAR news cycle. And we get to Phoenix, and some bozo in a number one car spins the 9, and Michael McDowell clears out Alex Bowman, who just got back from a concussion.
Mm-hmm.
We are not talking about that. We are. What are these guys that are seemingly one lucked into a Daytona 500 win? And I know that goes against my take on it, but I'm doing it because that was a real ass move, frankly. Like
I think
I thought that was
McDowell,
the worst one of the year.
right. Well, I don't know about
it didn't make any
worst
sense.
one of the year.
Well,
I
it
don't
didn't
know
make
about
any
the
sense. They're
worst
coming out of a corner for like 14th.
And that's probably why, though, it doesn't make as much noise, is because it is Michael McDowell and Alex Bowman. They're not necessarily big names right now in NASCAR. You had Larson and Bubba, who are quite literally two of the biggest names that the sport promotes on a regular basis in that incident.
I was just
And it's not necessarily as big of a deal because it doesn't have really a whole hell of a lot of implications behind it.
well. I'm more looking at the driver of the number 9 car and Chase Elliott becoming a 2-time champion. And he gets cleaned out by a starting park.
Well, okay, it wasn't a starting park, first
Are
of
we
all.
sure?
Second of all,
I didn't see
yeah,
him up there at the
100%.
end of the race.
Well, he finished like third.
I think you might have a typo in your scorebook, Damon.
Well, I don't think it is, but you know my feelings on the guy that drives the one car. However, I think the other reason it wasn't as big of a deal between those two is because Chase came out and said that he wasn't sure what happened and how and if he did anything wrong. Like he said on the radio, if it asked if he did
Yeah,
something
and
wrong.
I saw that and read all that, and he asked after
So
Chastain lapped him again, like, you're 100% sure that was I didn't do anything wrong, and his spotter was like, no, you didn't do anything wrong, because he didn't. Chase lifted earlier in the race for Christopher Bell, so that Christopher Bell didn't get cleaned out in the first 25 laps, because there's still over 100 laps to go, buddy.
Mhm.
People race respectfully, and this dude has just been on an FU tour. Sorry, I'm not very good at judging when those go off. There's no timer to them. But this dude's going on a FU tour the entire season, tearing up race cars, and it's funny because he's a watermelon farmer. Do you hear about that, by the way? Did you know that?
Oh yeah, apparently he's a watermelon farmer, and apparently he's just topped in every ride he possibly can to get to the top level. Do you know that?
And spare me the, blue collar, work hard type of thing. Chase Elliott's won at every level he's been in. Yeah, he's had the equipment to do it, but he works at his craft. He's racing a dirt late model when he's not in a NASCAR. He's racing a USAC midget. He's racing in different. He's raced asphalt late models, right? Like, yeah, the guy has money. Are you gonna hold him down because he has money? Kind of hard to do.
Right.
You can't. I mean, I'm sure they gave him good equipment coming up, but that's what you do when you're in the minor leagues, in ARCA, in the Xfinity Series. Sammy Smith was like the fastest car in the ARCA West race on Friday by probably half a lap per lap.
Right.
Like he was a lap down, unlapped himself, and came back and won the race. Not all under green, but it happens, And I'm just tired of the guy. I thank God that we have the off season here, because it's ridiculous the amount of people that clamor to be fans of people that do things like the guy in the number 1, and people that do things like Michael McDowell did to a guy coming back from a concussion.
Yeah, I would be more egregious to the guy in the one car because
why do you you're talking about the one?
Yeah, because he does this on a regular basis. Like that's the thing. Like it's a regular occurrence for that guy. McDowell's had a couple of run-ins, and I understand where you're coming from on coming back from a concussion, but at the end of the day, the guy in the one car continues to do this on a regular basis. If it wasn't for that event that he put together last week at Martinsville, we would be talking about this as a bigger deal, I think, because people are now like, oh shit, we can't hold back, or we can't let Ross have it anymore because he made NASCAR get back to the mainstream media. Well, sorry, but the guy is still an idiot. He still cannot drive a car and still somehow manages to not get wrecked.
Yeah, and I've said that a few times about him. He's not going to be a Dale Jr. He's just not. He doesn't have the speed. He's showing it on Sunday too. He doesn't have pure speed to get by people. He's got to run them up a corner a little bit, and that's how he's going to pass. He didn't have the pure speed to catch Logano. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. I know people were mad about.
Nobody had the pure speed to catch Logano.
What did you think about Blaney? Because Blaney was pissed in his post-race deal.
Yeah, I don't know. That was kind of odd. I don't know if he was given a team order or not, but
If you're given a
because
team order and you finish second in a NASCAR race, like especially
but
that one, like I picture
here's the
Blaney as a
thing.
guy who's going to win 60 races in his career. Maybe that's a little high, maybe 40, 50. I don't know. But
Right.
he's not, he's going to be very good. That guy has potential
Here's
to be the same type of guy as Chase Elliott is now, and Kyle Larson as well. All the
here's
guys
the
that are up
thing,
there.
though. Earlier in the week, because they asked Roger Penske this during his media day for the championship four,
Hey, one sec, buddy.
is
All right, go ahead, Damon.
um you
They
know
wanted
what
they wanted to make sure that I wasn't stealing signs up here.
there you go. No, I think when they interviewed Roger during his championship press conference, and asked him, what a perfect day would be if he had, Blaney running up to the front because he hadn't won a race yet this year, but Logano was second. He said, would there be team orders in play? And he blatantly said no. He said, as long as Logano stays second, I need to get the 12 car of victory this season because he's earned it and has deserved it. And so I'm not gonna pull team orders to do that. So that's why I don't think that there were team orders in play there for that sense. I just think that that was an indicator of the passing at Phoenix.
Yeah, I agree. The clean air was huge, and it's unfortunate because you want to get rid of cars that can't pass because of air. You don't want that necessarily at tracks like Phoenix, and maybe they'll. I'm sure they're going to go to work on upgrades over the off season. That's been relayed pretty well, I think. At least in my opinion. If you don't think it has, tweet me, let me know. NASCAR is paying for an upgrade to the car, and they've upgraded parts of the car throughout this season. Um, and so at least, hopefully we're going to get the safety concerns, and hopefully we're going to do some stuff on short tracks. I know Justin Marks, Brad Keselowski, and Denny Hamlin are all pretty in favor of trying some higher horsepower packages at short tracks. So we'll see what those tests come up with. I know those guys, they have some ideas, and I think the more of those types of owners we can get in the sport, the better. Because eventually, if everyone's like that, it's going to be a pretty good product that NASCAR is going to have because of the ideas and the minds going through theirs.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's got to be, something that they look forward to, and I think the higher horsepower is what people are looking for. I mean, hell, the street cars of the models that we are currently running in NASCAR have higher horsepowers than what they are running. So that's something that I think they need to take a look at.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Brad Sweet won his fourth straight World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series title, beating out David Gravel. He had to finish like top 18 in the last night, and he did it. What do you think of him? What did you think of that race? Hearing the results, it didn't sound like I watched all of them. Gravel, his car just, I don't know if it broke during that first dash on Wednesday night, but from then on it was not near as fast to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch much of it. Kind of just saw the results. Really didn't see much, didn't hear much about it. So I'm probably not the best person to be answering this, but it certainly seemed to have been a year for the consistency piece. I mean, that's why Christopher Bell was in the championship four. That's why Chase Elliott was in the championship four on the NASCAR side. That's why Brad Sweet was in the championship hunt on the Outlaws side. That's why Dennis Erb was a champion on the late model side, because you look back at their seasons and it was just consistently finishing races and being near the front of races consistently throughout this year. And so that's why there was a chance there. I know you guys talked about it on here last week leading up for that race, talking with that interview, talking to Gravel himself, and said that David had more wins, more top five, more top tens. It was just being able to finish races. I think that was the biggest thing that hindered him throughout the season, and it certainly showed its head, unfortunately, this weekend.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting this offseason to see what teams and drivers opt to do with the High Limit Series and World of Outlaws, and if they can find a way to work together. I sure hope that World of Outlaws can allow their drivers to run those races. I don't think it takes away from your product, and I think it would be a scheduled benefit to you in more cases than not. And when it isn't, you're not going to have a guy travel across the country just to race one race. So your current World of Outlaws sprint car champion, I would work with him. That's just me. The
Right.
best dirt driver and the best driver in the world right now in Kyle Larson, I would work with him. So that's just me.
Right.
I'm not trying to throw shade at the Outlaws. I'm just thinking about the common race fan and what we can do to make our sport bigger. And I appreciate all those guys for what they've done this season because it's awesome. It's been fun seeing the World Finals grow. It's on my bucket list. I want to get down there. So appreciate them for a fun year. Mike Hess, all those guys. I said one name and then said all those guys, didn't I? All the balls bouncing around me are getting my ADHD all out of whack. Hold on, we got a buzzer coming up. A little buzzer break. Okay, and thank you also to Brian Walker for what he does with the media, Nick Graziano, and all the guys that I know from there. Trent Gower does great photos. Ross Weiss for making those cool videos and content like that as well. Mike Warren, JC Norgard. I think I got all the guys that I know at least.
There you go.
But we'll see. It'll be an interesting offseason in that venture. That's the other thing I wanted to ask you about. Donnie Schatz winning 2 of the last 3 races.
It's pretty cool, isn't it? Old man
back?
still can get it done. Hell yeah, he never left.
All right, he never left. He's going to have his worst points finish in like 15 years this year, finishing 4th.
Yeah, isn't that
That's
the craziest
wild, isn't
thing
it?
to say? Yeah. To think that Donnie finishing 4th is bad.
It's terrible for you guys. It's awful. This is like the 2017 Cubs finishing 4th.
Right.
It's terrible.
Right. You know how I feel.
That's far underperforming for you Schatz fans.
We've been spoiled for quite a few years, so I guess we have to take our downside every once in a while.
All right. Shout out to Damon for joining me. I'll let you get to bowling practice. When's the next game?
We are off this weekend and back on next weekend.
I like it. I'm excited. Nitro Rallycross this weekend. Super Dirt Late Models this weekend as well. I believe in Vegas. Race XR. Yeah, that might be the big one, I guess. I'm cheering for the funny car points leader and the top fuel points leader to be knocked out in the first round.
Well, that's what it's going to take, I think.
Better yet, qualifying.
Yeah, I can't foresee that being the case.
What are the odds they break out in qualifying 4 times in a row?
Well, they won't break out.
What does that mean?
Because that means they run a dial-in. They don't run dial-ins in pro classes, so they can't break out. The only way they would do is break total, like if their car wouldn't start or something.
That's more what I was actually talking about.
I couldn't foresee them doing that. So
all right, well, we hoped. We will pray as well.
There you go.
Thoughts, prayers. Stay safe and stay sound, Damon.
Will do. You as well. Don't get hit by a basketball today.
I'm way too high up to get hit, but don't.
You never know.
I'll take photos for about 10 minutes of the men's game, so don't jinx me, I guess. Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for listening. We appreciate it, and we will be back later this week. Hopefully, I'll let y'all know what goes on. Can't wait for it. Have a good one, guys.